Hey everyone, Chris here, and what you're about to listen to is an RH Gaiden, part of the content that is exclusive to our patrons over at Patreon. So if you want to hear more content like this, and you're just interested in supporting us in general, just head over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/retrohangover, or you can find it at linktree/retrohangover. That's linktr.ee/retrohangover, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Welcome back to another episode of RH Gaiden. So, once again, because you're listening to this, you're obviously a patron. Thank you so much for being a patron, everyone out there. I just want to say today we have a really special episode because both me and Shane are here. I think this is the first episode where me and Shane are doing a Gaiden together, so that's super awesome. Hi, Shane.
That's Shane and I
don't care, Dick Dragon. Just take
Chris
it.
is like, okay, and I immediately regret this.
Good for you. And of course, we wouldn't be complete without a guest.
Right.
As RH Gaiden is all about bringing on guests.
That's right.
Which is awesome. So our guest today is someone that I've actually been on a show with covering the same topic, which is today, Trials of Mana. It is Adam from The Good, The Bad, and The Backlog. How are you doing, my kangaroo friend from down under?
Just hopping in my kangaroo's pouch and getting really squishy and juicy and gonna go down to the shops. I don't know.
I heard it's quite sloppy in there. Like you'll get covered in.
It's like raspberry jam.
This is all new information to me, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's just, kangaroos, it's like oatmeal. It's like strawberry jam and oatmeal. Yeah.
I mean, just watch the episode of Australia on The Simpsons, and it's pretty much 100% accurate.
Even with the bullfrogs?
Oh, yeah, we call them cane toads, though.
Oh,
cane toads.
Yeah.
That's a much more like metal name for them. I'm gonna start using that instead.
I never thought of it like that.
Okay, so I gotta ask though, like in all honesty, do you just get sick of like the real low effort Australian jokes, like shit about kangaroos?
No.
Like, does that ever get tiresome?
No, because like we never do it in day-to-day life here anyway. So like I haven't even heard the word kangaroo in months. So having people bring it up is kind of like a novelty now.
My entire perception of Australia is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Do you get sick of the you love guns and shooting people jokes?
Are you asking me that?
Who, me?
Yeah, well, obviously not the Australian Shane.
I mean, I don't know what goes on over there. They got to defend themselves from those buff ass roos somehow. And to answer your question, surprisingly, I don't get asked that much. But then again, I haven't left the house since March. So, I don't even know what's going on in the world. I don't even know what's going on in my yard.
That'll do it.
It's probably flooded. We've been getting a lot of rain at the time of recording.
Yo, it is so flooded. My yard is particularly bad for that. So it turns into a lake when we start getting these kind of torrential downpours. So yet another reason not to leave the house.
Oh, yes.
As if I needed one.
Talk about the weather is just the highest brow of conversation topics.
Wow. Okay.
Love
I feel
it.
personally attacked by this.
That's what I woke up early for.
You know what's a much better topic? Is today's topic, which is Trials of Mana for a lot of things. Steam, PS4, Switch, and I'm sure we're going to talk about which version we played. But as we get into the episode, I think it's probably important to establish why we're talking about Trials of Mana anyway, and that's because it's directly related to the Mana series. It's actually a remake of, I guess, Seiken Densetsu 3, or as it's called now, Trials of Mana. I have to say Mana. They used to call it Mana. It's Mana now officially, which is weird. But what was your experience with it? We'll start out with you, Adam, because I actually think you have the most amount of experience with the franchise in and of itself.
Yeah, some would call me a Mana expert. That's being me. So I'm glad that you invited me on to be your professional Mana expert.
We need
Anyway.
one. You are it.
I grew up playing Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, and that was my favorite game for a very long period of time. It's kind of like how if you ask somebody what their favorite game is and they say Ocarina of Time because of 100% nostalgia, that was me, but for Secret of Mana. And then I realized that it's actually not that great in modern day. But anyway,
there are a lot of
Seiken
personal
Densetsu
attacks
3.
happening in this episode already. I don't know how I feel about this. Go on.
Guilty conscious.
I shall continue. So I played Secret of Mana 2 or Seiken Densetsu 3 via emulation in high school, I think, and loved every minute of it with the English translation. And yeah, so when they announced that it was part of the Collections of Mana for the Switch, I picked that up, played it again, and then played the remake pretty much immediately after that.
Good deal. Good deal. What about you, Shane?
Mine is far less interesting. I didn't really have any experience
Shocker.
with well, go fuck yourself too. With the the Mana series, and I don't care if it's canonically Mana. That's like the worst way of saying that word. So I'm just gonna keep saying Mana. But the only exposure
People who
I
play
had
Magic
to
and
it.
Gather say.
I play the shit out of Magic the Gathering, or at least I used to, and I did not call it mana. But anyway, I digress. I didn't have a lot of exposure to the series at all, really, outside of one of my good friends at the time hyped the shit out of Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo and would not shut up about it, and also never let me borrow it. So I never got a chance to really play it. And so the only thing that sticks in my head about this series, at least from a nostalgic point of view, is it took on this like oddly mythical status in my brain. And I think part of like the box art had to do with this too, because it was just very like ethereal and mystic. But like I never got a chance to experience it, so it was always this like weird sort of thing out in the ether that I heard was really good, but never had a chance to actually play. So that pretty much sums it up for me. So honestly, getting into the remake of Trials here was my first like legit dive into it, outside of I guess us finally getting around to playing FF Adventure sometime last year. I think it was
Almost like 2 years ago now, feels like.
Is it? I don't know. What is
It's been a long
time?
time. Yeah, go back and listen to that episode and listen to us struggle to get our feet underneath ourselves. It's a good time. So my experience is somewhere in between yours and Adam's. I played Final Fantasy Adventure sometime around the time it was relevant. I just knew it was a Final Fantasy game on the Game Boy, and I loved all things Final Fantasy, so I had to play it. Never had even heard of Secret of Mana until much later, until I had heard of Seiken Densetsu 3. And that it was a sequel to Legend of Mana. In fact, a lot of people called Seiken Densetsu Legend of Mana, or I'm not sorry, not Legend of Mana, Secret of Mana 2, because Legend of Mana is a game all unto itself. So, of course, there's a lot of praise and hubbub about the original Secret of Mana, mostly because of its multiplayer. And I wish that I had played it as it was current with multiplayer, because apparently that's the best way to play it. But as Adam kind of hinted at, if you go back and play it today, at least for me, who doesn't have the nostalgia that a lot of other people would, it really hasn't aged all that well. And I would actually say that's kind of the same for Seiken Densetsu 3. It's kind of slow, it's kind of methodical. I actually think Final Fantasy Adventure has aged better out of the three of them. But I do think that the game we're talking about today, and not the remake, but the actual game, Seiken Densetsu 3, that's better than what Legend of Mana was for the PlayStation. I did get Legend of Mana for the PlayStation. That game is weird, and they're remaking it, and who knows. But I played Seiken Densetsu 3 the same way that Adam did, through emulation, sometime in middle school and high school. And I think I liked it a lot more back then, just because it was the game we didn't get. So you had that with like Final Fantasy V, Seiken Densetsu 3, Bahamut Lagoon, all these other Square games that we just didn't get for a very long time. It's kind of like that FOMO. And we played it, and me and my friends, and I think we hyped it up a lot more just because of that fact. Then I saw that they were making a remake of Trials of Mana, and it looked a lot better than what they did with Secret of Mana, because Secret of Mana looked like shit, and I had a bunch of friends that said it would almost brick your PS4. Mm-hmm. But this one looked good. The reviews were good, so I picked it up, and as we're going to discuss here today, I was extremely happy with it.
Cool.
Neat.
You did bring up a good point, though, that resonated with me. Oh, listen to me being all fancy.
Ooh.
Hooray.
Those emulator games like Bahamut Lagoon and stuff, while you were talking about that, I was like, oh my God, that was my high school as well. Just like playing all these exclusive games that nobody in my school had played because you can't get them in Australia. You have to download them and emulate them. So yeah, I think it's like a hipster factor. So if you can't have access to these games, it kind of it raises their value so much more on this level of like legendariness or something.
Oh God, we're hitting critical weeb factor right now. I can't handle it.
Yeah. Well, it almost goes into line with your profession, Shane, because you could show off your elite hacking skills as a budding teenager when you could show your friends how to patch a ROM. Be like, oh, here's a patch file, and I drop it onto this ROM that wasn't Japanese, and now everyone's speaking English. I know magic.
That's right. Yeah, I guess that lines up with me and my friends in like 6th grade thinking that it was a cool thing to learn how to make our own web pages. Yeah.
Oh, on GeoCities?
I was an Angel Fire guy. Thank you very much.
Oh, I've got a funny story about a GeoCities website I made, if you don't mind the slight deviation.
No, go for it.
Go for it, man.
Okay. So I had this stepsister. I still have her as a stepsister, but we don't talk anymore. That's a different story.
She's stuck.
You can find her on Pornhub. Just kidding. She had a boyfriend who had a GeoCities page, and he created this little character called a Junkie Puff, which is like a drug-addicted little puff mascot thing. And then I wanted to impress him and be super cool. So I made a GeoCities website as well. And then I was like, how can I rip this off? So I was like, okay, I'll take junkie as well. And then at the time as a kid, I didn't know what the next word I'm about to say meant, but I called it Junkie Puff. So I made a website for a Junkie Puff. And
Sounds
then
like a drug-addled Pokemon.
Hey, there's the dog.
Damn dog. I'll say that again. That sounds like a drug-addled Pokemon.
Yeah, well,
Don't bark, damn it.
When I showed them, they're like, you do know that means like you're a drug-affected homosexual. And I was like, oh, shit. And then it became reality like 20 years later.
I was going to say, and then...
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Minus the drugs, I'm clean now.
That's how it all started.
Now I want to go on the Internet Archive and find Junkie Puff.
It's not all it's cracked up to be. It was literally just the word Junkie Puff, and then it had 2 GIFs or GIFs or whatever you want to call them of Goku and Vegeta shooting out key blasts at the word on either side of it.
No, that sounds fucking
Sounds
amazing.
gay.
But that's all it was. Anyway.
In any case, that was a good story.
Thanks.
And what we also could do is talk about the story from Trials of Mana.
Wow. After 5 years, we really fucking nail these segues, let me tell you.
We're doing it. We are on our way. So, okay, the story of Trials of Mana is super Mana is like super fucking basic. I don't think you could find a plot in
like Ugg boot Starbuck basic.
Yes. There's a bad guy. At least, well, there's 3 bad guys. So you don't know which bad guy you're going to get if you've never played it before. So there is that. And they're all trying to go to the mana tree and have world domination for their own evil and nefarious purposes. And you, as good guy, have to go stop them. Which is kind of just boil it down. That's the same for everybody.
Yep. I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, so technically, I guess it did it first, so I can't really, fault it for that. But this is like tropes within tropes. Like, how many times have we seen like the magical life tree thing happen, right? Like, that's been done to death. There's really nothing particularly groundbreaking here, honestly. And I guess you could say that maybe in some way this kind of like set the stage for some of these tropes for games that came after it. But yeah, I mean, like, evil guys gonna do what evil guys do, and you are the good dudes, and so you got to go stop them from taking the power of the world, which also I think happens to have something to do with crystals, because it always does.
I wouldn't even say that this was like the first to do it. These kind of tropes have been done before. Shut up!
Even the dog doesn't like the story.
Yeah. Now I'm leaving it in. But yeah, these kind of tropes have been done before. Final Fantasy IV really nailed that home, especially within Square games. I mean, Secret of Mana wasn't too much different. I think the only difference here is that your characters have just slightly more interesting backstories that are pretty much immediately forgotten about once you get your fairy friend. By the way, there will be spoilers. I don't give a shit. There are some spoilers here. There's not much to spoil. Don't worry, but there will be spoilers. But once you get your fairy friend, like, whatever happened in the opening sequence, depending on what character you choose, and there's 6 of them, it's pretty much doesn't matter who you chose, because almost everything is the same, even down to the cutscenes, because it touches every single character throughout the timeline of the story. And it's not like there's anything within that character's arc that is necessarily even all that interesting.
It's kind of true to life. Like, you make friends with a fairy, and then all of a sudden, you don't matter anymore. You have to do what the fairy wants, and you get taken on a wild ride.
This is your Junkie Days talking.
Yeah, it's the poof thing all over again.
Damn junkie poof.
I mean, for what it's worth, I did appreciate the different backstories for the characters. Not that they're necessarily like super fleshed out, and overall, I don't think a whole lot changes for any of them. But at least for me personally, Kevin, definitely best boy, and his pupper, like, his motivation was the most relatable. I'm gonna be honest.
I agree.
Relatable, yeah. I think his motivation wasn't the best. I think Rize's motivation was the best.
I feel like Rize's, not enough people actually died.
Like half of her entire like city died.
Yeah, but
Her
you didn't
dad
really
died.
Well, it's only really her dad. Everybody else were like faceless NPCs, and you didn't even really get confirmation that they died. Like, where was the obituaries? I want some evidence.
Adam's bloodlust was not sated.
Where was the
her kid
Bridget?
brother's been kidnapped. Her city's been taken over. Her kingdom appears to be lost. Her father died. Almost all the warriors were slaughtered by sleeping gas.
There was a lot of them left over.
That is true. There was an inordinate amount left over to really hit home. There should have been less. Like, there should have been a very small resistance.
Yeah, it should have been like
was a lot of them.
3 or something.
But I would certainly say her motivation is better than Duran's.
Okay, so I mean, for what it's worth, we're kind of bleeding into talking about the characters, and that's fine. I mean, Duran is like,
which is why I moved it up in the notes.
Yeah, Duran. I mean, he's like, what's his motivation? To be best sword man? Like that's it.
The class change.
Yeah, the meta commentary in this game like really threw me off, and I don't know. I assume they did it on purpose, and for what it's worth, I don't know if that was in the original at all. But it was like very oddly like fourth wall breaking almost when he's just like, I need to learn how to class change. And I'm like, that is not a thing that anyone in this world would like ever say.
Yeah, I wish there was like a law word for it or something like, I need a promotion to lead accountant or something.
I need a digivolve.
Yeah, I need an evolution.
Yeah, he talks like he's a Pokemon, and that's going into like the end game, because there's a prologue once you. I did the same thing fucking Shane did. There's an epilogue that you play after you beat like the main game, where you face 3 characters of the bosses. I think there's the Dragon Lord, there's the Edge Lord, and there's the Meme Lord. And you fight one of the 3. No, they're not Edge Lord and Meme Lord. Who the fuck are they?
I mean, that's
the thing. They're so generic and bland. They're so fucking generic and bland. It doesn't matter. Like, the only one I can remember is the Dragon Lord.
Lord of Darkness.
And then the Darkness Lord. They're boring. their little minions that get them power are much more interesting. Like there's the Dark Prince. Okay, I remembered him, and I don't know who the third one is.
Yeah,
who's the
I
one
don't know.
that
I got the Dragon Lord for mine,
yeah,
so I don't
it's
know about
pointless.
the other two.
I think it's like a
fucking
priest of darkness or something.
they're all darknesses.
Yeah.
It's the lead singer of
They're all
Ghost.
dark.
But you get this epilogue, and the entire point of the epilogue to start off is getting class 4. And it's just why?
So
Why can't they just say we can make you more powerful?
we just talk about the talking
4.
book that gives you this quest, by the way. That's just brilliant.
Talking books are cool.
Yeah, no, it's it's great. It's like Hermione's wet dream.
There's nothing
I'm
wrong with
sure.
talking books. Can I be part of that?
Depends on which part of the series you're talking about.
The
Well,
first
obviously
one.
not the early one. No.
Well, why not? I mean, Charlotte's a valid option in this game, so
Oh
God.
And she is awful.
Can we just
Her
agree
story
that
is
Charlotte
awful.
is the worst? Can we agree on that?
Yes. As I said on Adam's podcast in his bonus episode, because he did Marry, Fuck, Kill with the female characters. I pretty much automatically, I think everyone would put Charlotte in the kill category, because any other option, first of all, it'd be weird, but the kill category just feels so right.
Can you imagine
murder is the
choosing
worst.
fuck for that and then having to listen to that voice the entire time?
Yes, Daddy, give me more.
Oh my God.
I want to squirt.
We're going to hell for this. This is great. This is great.
Listen,
We're now on the FBI's
only
wanted list,
paying
and, Adam,
patrons
you're on
will
the
ever
CIA's.
hear this. This won't go out to the general public. It's fine. Hey, that's right. You paid to hear this degeneracy.
I think it's worse to kill a kid than it is to marry a kid, because there's child brides in real life. You just don't fuck them until they're of age.
You hope.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, of age is different in every country. Why are we talking about this?
It's a natural progression of the conversation.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, but attempting to
tell you who I
bring
would
it back
fuck, though.
in line with the rest of the conversation, I will say that I am glad for a number of reasons I did not pick her for my party. One, because I think she's redundant as a dedicated healer. And two, I got more than enough of her character in just the few brief moments that she crossed paths with my party. And I also appreciated that Duran basically told her to fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't pick her, everybody tells her to fuck off, basically. But her, out of all the other characters, seems to reappear the most later on in the story.
I think they're just trolling us with that.
And I can't stand
Yeah.
the way she talks. It's so fucking terrible.
Well, she can't talk if your dick is in her mouth.
God damn it, we said no. No.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
Precisely.
But going back to Duran.
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 There it is.
The thing I like about, already dropping it. The thing about Duran's story is, even though he probably has the weakest setup out of everybody, because Angela, her mom's a giant douchebag. Kevin, his dad's a giant douchebag. Charlotte is just she's an idiot. And who else? Reese has some justification, and so does Hawkeye. He kind of gets really fucked over too, and he has things to worry about. And then Duran has, as we said, like this garbage plot line about how he just wants to become a higher, different class or something. But somehow his entire storyline is probably the most fleshed out. It has the most amount of storyline. It has the most amount of lore within the world itself. It's very disappointing in a way.
I mean,
Well, because it's such a weak start.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
If you're talking about like involvement in the overall like world building, then I guess, yeah, he would be probably the best example. I mean, from my limited perspective of just the party that I played with, because I didn't go through this multiple times, but I didn't hate like Angela's storyline either. I thought that one was all right. I mean, it's basic, just like the others are, but I thought it was okay. At least she has some more motivation outside of just like
also the
wants
same
to be
storyline.
best sword guy.
So who was your party, Shane? You had Duran as the number one and Charlotte. Who was the third person?
God damn it. No. So I had Duran as my main character, and then I went with Kevin and Angela.
Oh, right. My bad. Okay. Yeah, because if you have Duran and Angela together, both their stories kind of intertwine anyway, because they both wind up with the same villain. So you'd get a more fleshed out story if you pick the pairs.
Yeah. And I didn't do that intentionally for that purpose. It was more of I poked around online and found out that seemed to be a really good party combination. So that's what I went with.
And I think they hook up at the end too.
Yeah. And then Kevin gets his dog back. So everybody's happy.
Hooray.
I didn't really kill your dog, see?
That was such a fucking dick move,
up.
dude. Oh my God.
I thought it was a cop-out. They should have kept the dog dead.
I thought they were going to.
See, the reason he's alive, son, is because you're shit at digging graves.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that really terrible shallow grave you put out there, and he was still breathing. So you're welcome, is what I'm saying.
Gave him a piece of candy and he was fine.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not a bad guy. I just killed a bunch of humans because I just wanted the Beastmen to do something again. We wanted to make Beast Country great again. So that's why we just went around slaughtering people. But I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, like they frame it like he's not a bad king in the end, but remember, he completely wiped out Astoria.
Yeah.
And killed all of those villagers.
Every single one, except for a dog.
Well, good. But he killed Kevin's dog, apparently. Before it came back.
Briefly.
He saved Kevin's dog.
Well, dude, never mind. He has an affinity for dogs, is what I'm saying.
But the other thing about the reason I say that about Duran's quest, as we sidetracked massively right there, is there's a place in the game called Peta that when you get there, it's all destroyed. It's pretty much near the end of the game, and it's after you kill these like mystical beasts called benevolons, whatever, and you go to the city called Peta, and before you advance through. With Duran, you see his father and the Hero King, and you can talk to them, and it gives some exposition that you're actually in a city of the past, and it provides some additional motivation for Duran that the other characters just never get in their story, which I thought was clever, but I also would have liked to see something like that for the other characters.
Actually, that's a good point. So if you play as one of the other characters and you don't have Duran involved at all, do you just like randomly go to like town out of time Peta for no apparent reason? Like, is it ever explained?
It is explained.
Yeah, I think you need to speak to somebody who tells you where to find the next thing.
the dark stone, the dark crystal.
As vague as that sounds,
Right.
But yeah,
yes.
you talk
the
to some
MacGuffin stone. Right.
Exactly.
The dark Benevodon. Because remember when you're on the pirate ship, they ask where the dark mana stone is, and he's like, I don't know. I don't fucking know.
The past. Okay.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's already been destroyed. I don't fucking have an idea. I can't help you.
So you have to go to the town Peta, which is a neighboring town to the other town File, to find out where to find
Wondering if we were going to make that joke. Thank you.
I couldn't help it.
I mean, it's clear who that person is, Adam. You can stop making the jokes now.
I don't fuck kids. I just... Never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
just go on.
Just stop. Just go hang out with Epstein for a while. I'm sure he'll love to...
I love kids. I'm just not allowed within 500 meters of a school.
Okay.
For no
Glad you're here.
related reason at all.
Yeah, that's completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, I think that kind of wraps up the story. As I think we've kind of talked all as we need to about it. We're not going to get into finer details. Just know it's basic. It's good, cotton candy, popcorn shit that it's inoffensive and you don't need to pay attention to. It is what it is. How'd you guys think the game looked? It's a remake, it's coming from a 16-bit version into this new, fleshed out, 3D, fully animated looking game. What'd you guys think of it?
I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it looked great. I was actually impressed with it, and that's not even coming from, the sort of angle of it being like an HD remake. I think just standing on its own, I think it looks pretty great. Like, it's not, some ray traced bullshit or whatever, but I think the art style that they chose for it is going to age a lot better than some other choices that they could have made. So I think that's got that going for it. And if you want to look at it from, an HD remaster perspective, you can tell that a lot of real work went into making this look like, a new release, which I appreciate, because particularly with some of the announcements that have come out recently about some HD remasters of certain games, a lot of them kind of start to feel like throwing a new coat of paint on something and charging $60 for it. So the amount of work that I think went into this is appreciated.
Oh, I agree. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think it's simple and clean, and it works really well for this type of game. There are some choices with character designs that I'm not a huge fan of, though, like the old people having gigantic eyebrows that cover their eyes. Other than that,
I actually loved that, but
it creeps me out. But otherwise, I think it looks really good. And because I've been playing a lot of Falcom games lately, I think like comparatively between the two styles, this holds up like way better, because you can tell like it's a budget title, but it's not like a lazy budget title where you're just sort of rehashing PS3 level graphics and selling it off in a PS4 game. But they've taken a lot of time and care in making it look like its own thing. So props.
I like how you brought up the Falcom games, and the one I'm thinking of right now, and you said that was Trails of Cold Steel.
Yeah, well, all of them really, because I've been playing Tokyo Xanadu as well, and that's PS3 level.
Was that a Vita game originally as well?
I think it might have been. I'm not 100% sure.
And I think that's kind of the reasoning with those games. But you're right. I mean, there's a very similar graphical style, but you can tell, as you said, like care and work went into this, so it didn't look like ass. Yeah. Which I kind of think how Secret of Mana looked, the remake. It looks like a mobile game. Secret of Mana.
It looks like Clay Fighters.
So you could.
Hey, that's a knock on Clay Fighter.
My bad. Clay Fighters does look better.
No, it doesn't. That doesn't look better either. They both look like a shit. They both look terrible. But that's the thing. If it looks like a mobile game, that's not something I necessarily want to play on my Switch or my PS4, and especially not on my PC, even though I know PC gets probably the lion's share of that. So the fact that they stepped up and put more detail into it is deeply appreciated. But I do have to say there was a lot of problems with texture pop-in that were just deadly obvious.
And actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, because you played this on, what platform did you play this on? Let me ask that first.
PS4.
Okay, so you played on the PS4, and even you pointed out that there was a lot of texture pop-in, particularly on character models and things like that, which is interesting because I played the Switch version and it is worse. There's a lot of very obvious texture issues, like, and it becomes like painfully apparent when you're in cutscenes and the camera shot will will smash cut from one to another angle, and then when it does that, the new angle that it's showing you, like all of the textures, like the backgrounds, a lot of the character textures will be just blurry as fuck, and then will stay that way for like a good second or two until they all start to pop in, and it's like very, very noticeable. And it's weird because all of this exists in the same scene, so it's like, why is this even happening? And the only thing I can kind of surmise is that because this was all rendered like in engine for the cutscenes, the logic for, loading and unloading higher res graphics when the camera is not showing it was still in effect, I guess, maybe for the cutscene portions. And that's where you start to see that stuff. But yeah, that was not great. And it happened way more often than it should have.
Now, Adam, did you play this on the PS4 or the Switch or the PC?
I had it on PS4, and I was tossing up whether or not I'd go for Switch, but I decided that I wanted to be a trophy whore and go for the Platinum. So I tend to lean towards incentives.
So I wish one of us had played the PC version. I'm not sure if my PC would be powerful enough to handle it. I know Shane's would. I'm not sure where Adam is on that spectrum.
Well, my laptop is barely handling this conversation, so it's not going to handle that.
Good deal. But I wish someone had that experience to see if that just carried over to the PC version as well. And I don't think you didn't play this on a PS4 Pro either.
No, I've only got baseline.
Yeah, same as well. So I wish we could have more discussion on that point. So if you're playing it on the PC or PS4 Pro, it may not exist, but none of us here have a good opinion on that because none of us had the ability to do that. Now, one thing I'm looking in the notes here, Shane, that I do agree with, and I love the fact you put that, is that the enemies are so fucking cute. And it feels... I agree with you. It feels 100% terrible to engage in Mortal Kombat with them.
Yeah, like my fiance was sitting on the couch watching me play this for a fair bit of it, and she was the one that kept making that comment too, where like I would run up to a group of, these cute little fucking bunnies or whatever, and she's like, What are you doing?
Rabbits.
Why are you killing them? They were just living their life in the forest, being cute.
Especially the squirrel people. It's like, they're wearing clothes. They're probably from like their own little squirrel village. It's probably somewhat of a developed civilization.
They have a society.
Running up to them and you're like, die, fucker.
They're just hunting for their food.
Just trying to survive.
You're killing the food they're hunting for and then killing them. This is like Neanderthal levels of just primacy.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the dragon enemies, too, especially, like, they were so just fucking, like, little chibi dragons. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I felt bad about it the whole time.
They're just minding their own business.
Cute. I want to buy, like, merchandise for the enemies because they are, like, iconically cute. And I'm surprised they haven't sort of taken off like Jack Frost has in Persona or Shin Megami Tensei or something like that.
Or like the
they should be selling Rabbite plushies.
Yeah. I think you can get them in Japan. I'd imagine you could.
Oh, they need to be on every street corner here. I want one every day. Buy a new Rabbite.
Collect them all. Blind box Rabbites.
Regular Rabbite, pink Rabbite, black Rabbite. Which Black Rabbite's fucking tough. And I think we should use that to roll into how this game controls and plays, because I think that is probably the hardest boss or just enemy in the game is the Black Rabbite. But we can get to that in a moment. I don't know if you beat it, Shane, but the gameplay, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I think it controlled well. It was just one hell of an easy game, almost too easy.
I mean, it is, and I made this comment somewhere else. It was probably in our Discord or something, but when I say that a game is easy, that's saying something, because I'm, apparently I am the one that is now notorious for playing games on Babby mode. So this game is pretty easy. I went through the whole thing on normal, and I was fine. I think I maybe died twice the entire game, and honestly, that was just because, and I guess we could touch on this too because it is part of like the gameplay mechanics, but the reason that I got a total party kill at all was because the party AI is fucking stupid and just like runs into AoE attacks with just reckless abandon constantly. So other than that, though, like if you're actually controlling your characters, it's super simplistic. And I know Chris is going to have his piece about this, but I actually thought that the balance in the combat in this was like just right for me, because I know that there's probably a lot of folks, and you two might be included in this, that think that it's a little too, streamlined. But I thought it was like this sweet spot where like there was maybe 3 combos really that you learned for combat. And then once you kind of got those down, it was just a matter of kind of rinsing and repeating. And this might be like the ARPG person in me coming out, but I kind of really enjoy sort of just settling into that groove like that where you kind of know what to do and then you just kind of, bang out the combat. It's something very zen about it. And I felt like this game gave me that as well, where it was enough to keep me like somewhat engaged. But it wasn't just, mashing one button the entire time. So I actually liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed the combat. Now, the magic system is a different topic, but I'll let somebody else go before I go on a rant about that.
Yeah. I'll go next and let Adam cap it off with the gameplay. And I know I agree with you 100%. It's how streamlined it was something I actually enjoyed. And sometimes you do need a game where you can just sit back and chill, and you don't need to worry about it being too difficult. And I started out playing hard because me and Adam were playing this together. We were talking in the chat on Discord, and he said, before you even get started, make sure you bump it up to hard, because the game is just, if it's not on hard mode, it is too easy. And so, of course, I cheesed my party with all the healers, and I found out that wasn't entirely necessary, even on hard mode. Now, like Shane said, there was one boss that I came close to dying, and there was one time I did die. And the reason I died is because there's these enemies called petra birds or whatever they are. They're cute little birds that can petrify you, and they petrified my entire party, and that's how I died. So that's I consider it to be kind of a cheap death, especially with the way that they set up the mechanics in this game. And like Shane said, with your party members running into attacks with great aplomb, it's kind of frustrating. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it's a chill game. You can relax, and even the hard mode is just something that someone who's more experienced playing ARPGs, they're going to have a good time with. But like Shane said, the magic system in this game, and even the item system in this game, is a massive pain in the ass. And I'll go back to the original Seiken Densetsu 3, or like the Super Nintendo Trials of Mana, where when you selected your magic, the game paused and allowed you to select your magic. Or when you're healing your characters, the game paused while you healed your characters, or you really cast any spell for the most part, where in this is more real time. And I could see an argument for both and why anyone would favor both. But just activating magic in and of itself, especially for your secondary characters, becomes a massive pain. It's not fun, and it's almost more convenient to just, go straight for your primary attacker and just whack at enemies until they fall down. But other than that, no, I agree. Like, the flow of combat was very natural. I had a really good time with it. I really appreciated it. And it made the game go by a lot faster and made it feel more like a breeze. Adam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, okay, I don't want to be like the one that echoes exactly what you two have said, but right. I agree. I felt like the game was too easy, and the reason why I told you guys to play it on hard was because I had played the demo, and I played it on normal when I first had a go at it, and I was like, this is kind of laughably easy. Like, things are dying after 2 hits. So I bumped the difficulty up on the demo, and then that was still easy, and I never at any point was in critical health or ever felt like I was at threat of dying. So when it came to the main game, I already knew straight away, bump it up to hard, because that's the only real sort of semi-challenge you're going to get. And even then, I didn't feel challenged. But so it kind of made the combat slightly boring in the early sections of the game, especially when you have less abilities. But after a while, I fell into a really good rhythm, and then it kind of just became one of those games that was like escapism, so I could just switch my brain off, and then I fell into the groove, and I just did what I did, and like you said, it just made the game go so much faster, and I was fine with it. I do wish that there was slightly more of a challenge, like a hard mode.
Well, there is.
But I'm not willing. Yeah, but I'm not really willing to do that. When it got to the point where I'd finished it a couple of times, I finished it at least once, and then played it with the other characters, I was like, I'm going for the trophies. I don't really want to have any level of frustration, so I'm just going to stick to hard. And I think I died only once. But the annoying thing I have with the gameplay is the abilities that you actually equip to your characters as you level up, because there are so many of them. And once I had sort of figured out a couple to chuck on my characters, I just kind of ignored it after that because I was just sifting through this long list of different abilities that do different things. Like there's a level of highly customizableness there. That's not a word, but whatever.
High levels of customization.
That's it. Me speak good English.
You're Australian.
So you you can customize your characters and make them different in a way or operate differently, but there's really no need to because the level of challenge there isn't really high enough for you to want to experiment with the different ways that you can spec your characters out, I suppose. So after a while, I just chucked a few basic ones on there and then ignored the rest, and then Bob's your uncle, I was done.
See, that's interesting because like I took the opposite approach with that. I actually really enjoyed the abilities that you could slot in, and I did a lot of kind of mucking around with them over the course of the game. And then I didn't really settle on a really good solid set of, I think it was 6 you end up with by the end, for each character until the epilogue, I think. And that's when I had unlocked enough of them where I had a good sense of what they all did and what worked and what didn't for each of my characters. And then I settled into a real nice, like, workable set. But over the course of the game, though, I did a lot of swapping out. So I actually liked that portion of it, but I do agree that you didn't necessarily need to get real, into that. Like it didn't necessitate it because the difficulty was just really not there. And as far as the difficulty, one more thing I wanted to point out on that too, is I felt like in some places it was strangely unbalanced. Like generally speaking, the game is pretty easy. But there were a couple of moments, particularly boss fights, where it was like these odd difficulty spikes. The one in particular,
the door
that sticks out to me, yes, the door boss. That thing sucked. And it came out of nowhere too, because like you're just kind of breezing your way through this game, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, hey, do you want AoE and shit flying at you constantly, and your party is dumb and will just constantly die? Have fun. And that was like a complete shock to me. So it's a little spiky in some places like that, but overall it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that was my one death as well, was the door. Oh, yeah, the quest pointer.
Mm-hmm.
The quest pointer, I felt sometimes, was, while welcome, because I know in the original game it can be a little obtuse as to what you need to do and who you need to talk to progress the story, but it kind of made me feel like the game thought I was mentally handicapped. It was too handholdy.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. It didn't bother me too much, but then again, I guess I'm more of the mindset of like, I think things like World of Warcraft ended up spoiling me at some point, right? Where it was just like, hey, this dude has a quest for you, and also it go to this area and do the thing. And so nowadays, like if any game comes around where it's just like, figure it out, I'm like, but I don't want to. Just tell me where to go so I can do the thing. So I thought it was fine. I liked having the little beacons there because then it told me kind of where I needed to go next. But also I appreciated that it gave you eventually, and a lot of the JRPGs around this era kind of had this sort of progression where, you'd not have any way of traveling at all. And then you get one thing that lets you kind of travel some places. And then eventually most things, for whatever reason, ends up with some kind of airship, in this case, a dragon.
Right.
And then you can fly wherever. And so I liked that sort of progression, and the fact that it was like this self-contained kind of like overworld that you could fly around and stuff. So, but and going to other places, because there are some times where it's sort of necessitated a little bit of backtracking, particularly if you were trying to do the little cactus collection side questy thing. So I don't know, having the quest markers there kind of helped keep me on track, but I can see your perspective on it for sure.
Yeah. It definitely helps the game go faster because I knew exactly where to go all the time. And I do remember when I played the original, there was a certain section that gets very confusing as to where you need to go. And that's right around the time when you get that turtle dude with the goggles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you need to go back to a certain city, but you need to kind of go through another city and then catch a ship to another port and then walk to another city. But if you don't remember the exact path you have to take in the original game, then you might wind up running around for ages and not knowing where the hell you're going. So the quest marker in that respect was great. But at a certain point, I was just like, all right, I get the gist. Like, you know, you don't have to tell me every single little minute thing I have to do and exactly which characters I need to talk to, because then I just stopped talking to all the characters that didn't have a quest marker on them.
That's true. I wish there was some more like hidden side quests or additional content with those characters that didn't have the quest marker to give you some incentive. Now they tried doing that by giving abilities to some of these characters that you talk to.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Yeah.
Like Adam was saying, once you get abilities you like, you don't even care about those, and there's no incentive to do so even through trophies. Like, get all abilities, you don't even have that. So that does lend to a lack of talking to NPCs, which is kind of like what people do, or at least I find myself doing if I'm playing with a guide or a walkthrough, and that's somewhat unfortunate. And I could see that perspective, but I lean more towards I'm never going to be lost, and if I want to explore a city and talk to the NPCs, that's kind of my decision. I can play this game at my own pace and enjoy it the way I want to.
See, again, I had like the totally opposite reaction to that, where as soon as I found out that you could potentially unlock like equipable abilities just by talking to like town NPCs, I fucking talked to everyone.
But was it worth it?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
So let's sound and music. I thought were pretty good, and I'll get more into my opinion. I'll let Adam go first on this one, so he doesn't just echo everything me and Shane are saying as he had attributed to earlier. So Adam, what's your thoughts on the overall sound design of this game?
Sound design? Are we including voice acting in that equation?
Yeah, just the whole kit and caboodle. Let's just combine music and sound.
Okay.
Fuck it.
All right. Let's see. Sound is good. I thought it was fine. Voice, on the other hand, ranges from, pretty good to a bit of a turkey slap in the face. There's a couple of characters I have a seething hatred for, but some of them were pretty decent.
Which ones did you have a problem with?
Oh, well, everyone's going to have an issue with Charlotte because of her speech impediment and the way that she speaks is just frustrating as hell. But other than that, I thought that almost all of the elemental voices were really piss weak. It kind of sounded like they picked up people from the street, pulled them into a recording studio and was like, hey, read these lines of dialogue. And then for Lumina, they just happened to find the gayest person they could find on the street, brought him in, and was like, hey, you're diverse.
God, yes.
Read this line. It's like, hi, I'm Lumina. How's it going? And I hated him.
Okay, can we take a moment on that, because this is related and I pointed this out in my notes. Why in the English voiceover are the shopkeepers and possibly also the innkeepers, I can't remember if it was both, just like offensively gay? Like, why did that happen?
I don't know. Maybe it's because of the way they dance.
Like, there's no reason for that. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. And well, I'll talk about my thoughts about the rest of it. I don't want to interrupt you, but that just reminded me of that.
Oh, no, I'm basically done. Like that. Those are my irritations. Oh, other than Duran, when he has his little spoiler, like end of story twist about the identity of the Black Knight, his character model is moving in a way that does not reflect the way his voice sounds. Like the voice is being played off really dramatic, like, oh my God. And his character model is just kind of like shrugging and shaking his head.
I think that's
make any sense.
Problem with Duran throughout, though. Duran has one of the most, I wouldn't say his voice is bad for him, but to match his actions throughout the entirety of the game was pretty piss.
Well, I'd say that's an issue with the voice direction then, I guess. So he was directed poorly. And then a bunch of other people were directed to be really gay. So cool.
It's the diversity check, as you said.
All right.
That's how all gay people.
You want me to go now, Chris?
Go ahead.
Gay people are people too. They should be represented at games as flamboyant as they possibly can. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, so I think we're all going to agree that at least for the English voice acting, it was just uniformly bad. I mean, I think it's like neutral at best is kind of how I felt about any of them. Duran was like passable, but you're absolutely correct that he was given piss poor direction because he did not match the character's expressions at all. And I think I maybe got a couple of hours into the game and I like just out of spite at that point went in and changed the voice to Japanese and played the rest of the game that way. And it was a much better experience because I just could not deal. Like if it was like one character, like let's just say it was just Charlotte, right? It was just her completely annoying speech impediment. I could get past that. Also partially because she was not part of my party, so I could tell her to fuck off and be done with it. But it was like almost everyone was just terrible. And I don't know how they managed to do that unless it was just because this was technically a budget title, I guess. But the work that went into the rest of the game kind of does not really jive with that. Like I felt like there was a lot of really decent polish that was put on this title. In almost every other aspect, and then you ended up with just this like bargain basement voice acting, and I don't know how that happened, but the experience was much better once I swapped over to the Japanese track. And for what it's worth, Duran's Japanese voice actor was like on point with all of his expressions, and he was very much just like shrugging off like most of the shit that happened in the game, and I appreciated it so much more.
So I always start these type of games out if I have the option to put on Japanese dialogue if it was made in Japan with the Japanese voice track, and that's just because I already have a good idea of what I'm going to get into. Even when the voice acting is good, like in the case of Persona 5, I'll still want to listen to the Japanese voice track. One, because I'm also a weeb. So there is that. But
true.
You know, everything here, you know, for the most part, you're 100% correct. There's only two voices that I thought did a really good job here. And when I say really good, I mean, it's comparative to whatever else is doing. And that's Hawkeye and Fairy. I think Fairy's voice actress did a really good job, even though I think the direction failed in some aspects. But for the most part, Fairy's voice actress, phenomenal job, at least comparatively to everyone else in this game. And Hawkeye's was tolerable for the most part. Other than that, it's just a lot of misfires. And again, Charlotte's voice is fine for the character, but the direction is bad. Why are you giving her a speech impediment throughout the entire game? And every word is mispronounced. Every R, every L is entirely infuriating. And I don't know if it's realistic or not. I haven't met anyone with that sort of a speech impediment that bad. It's just so over the top and so overpronounced that, as Adam said, with the characters with the more flamboyant and stereotypical gay voice, is like almost offensive. It's borderline offensive the way they approached it. And I'm not a fluent Japanese speaker, or at least I can't pick up on differences in tone of Japanese voices, or if they're supposed to match a certain dialect or depiction of a certain type of person or character, they have a lisp or anything like that. I can't identify that in Japan. So if that's a problem with these voice actors, if they have similar issues with them, I don't know. And that's also one of the reasons I enjoy Japanese voice acting too. You know, ignorance is bliss in some cases, and I'd rather have that ignorance when the American voice acting is so fucking terrible. I'll take that. Now, as for the music, I do appreciate the fact that they updated the music, and the updated music sounds really good. I do think it sounds better than the old music. That being said, I think you can swap the old music and the new music and not really lose much of anything, because the old music holds up, especially with what you get, how it's presented. The old music, I won't call it timeless, but damn near. It really does show how good it was on the Super Nintendo all those years ago.
Yep.
All right, I'll go then. So about the music, I'm actually surprised that both of you are generally kind of lukewarm on it, especially since you both had experience with the original title. I would have thought that maybe you would have been a little bit more like positive about it, because I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack in this game. Like it's something that's notable if I enter an area in a game and I am like actually taken slightly aback by the backing music, because it's just that good. And like there were a couple of occasions in this game where I would like zone into a new area and I'd hear like a new track for the first time and I would be like, damn, that is really good. And I thought it was extremely well done. And if those are just like better renditions of the original tracks from the, you know, the OG release, then that's awesome. I'm glad to know that that music was there to begin with. But even somebody coming in without any sort of, you know, prior knowledge, I thought they knocked this out of the park.
I'm somewhat surprised. You thought I was lukewarm, and I damn near called the original timeless, dude. Did I give that impression, Adam?
Well, both of you guys said, like, when you're talking about the music, you're just like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, that's it.
Well, that's the thing. I think we're comparing it to the original. So when I say like the original shows how timeless the original was, and I said the new ones is better, then I think I'm kind of saying the music's fantastic.
Well, you didn't say it, Chris.
I did say it.
I think the music's great.
Yay.
No, I really do. Like, I love the music, but like I said, I have a hard time expressing positive emotion. So probably sounds a lot more lukewarm than I actually am. But I am really glad that they kept the remixes or the remastering of the tracks so what's that word? Faithful to the original, because like I put in the notes, I'm glad they didn't add like some dubstep to it or something, or try and like modernize it in a way that's doesn't reflect what the game is like or whatever. Like, you know, a boss theme with whatever dubstep sounds like.
Just go full Borderlands on it.
Yeah. But I do love the music. I think the reason why I'm not like raving about it is because I played this game for 3 playthroughs. It's kind of just like, you kind of block it out after a while because you hear it so many times.
Agreed.
I guess that's fair. And actually maybe that is a source of why you're not as I don't know, as what's the word
Elated?
I'm looking for? Yeah, sure. Elated, I guess, about it. Is maybe because you both had already played the original, so you're just like, yeah, these are pretty good adaptations of the soundtrack. Whereas me, not really having heard it before, I was just like, man, this shit slaps.
Yeah, it's definitely one of Square's better soundtracks of the era, and that's like a era of great soundtracks.
I find a lot of the Mana games have great soundtracks.
Oh, absolutely. All of them have really good soundtracks. Even FFA, even though Adventure has a good soundtrack. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to add an obligatory music track, speaking of music, as we take a short break, at least figuratively, as we get ready to talk about our final thoughts on the game and wrap this up. All right, welcome back. Even though I'm assuming you really didn't go anywhere, I know we didn't, but you got to hear a musical track from the game, so who knows what the fuck I played? Past me will figure it out. Well, future me will figure it out. Past me is just wondering what the fuck I'm
Just
gonna
like
play there.
5 minutes of Charlotte's voice dialogue.
You know what? I might do that. I might actually do that just for you, even though it's going to be patrons and not really you.
Great.
But it's your fault if it's there. It won't be there. Don't worry, everybody. But in any case, we're going to wrap up.
I mean, they would know at this point, wouldn't they?
I probably. I don't know. But in any case, we're going to
Anyway,
wrap this
go
up.
on.
We're going to wrap this one up. I love to give point scores for the guidance, just because we don't do it on our main show. And why not just give it a score? I don't give a shit about scores, but maybe some people do. But I'm going to give it to one anyway. So I guess I'll go first, and I'll let Adam wrap this up about his final thoughts on the game as the guest, and he gets the last word on it. And Shane, you can go in the middle and be a Shane sandwich. Yeah.
Hot.
The middle is the best position.
Yes.
It's true. Get the best of both worlds.
You get to stay the warmest too. It's, all that energy. In any case, my final thoughts on this game is it's a really good game. If you like action RPGs, or even if you like beat 'em ups, this is a good, chill, relaxed game for you to play. Not every single game needs to be hard or has to have a ton of challenge. And sometimes you just need to relax and decompress and just enjoy yourself. And I think this is a perfect game for that. I think that if you're going to have to think about whether or not you're going to play this game or the original Trials of Mana for the Super Nintendo, you play this game. This is a better game. The combat is better. Everything's better paced. The music is better. Obviously the graphics are better. And even though like you have your pixelated, if you like pixel art, because this game is animated, it's going to hold up great, just like Shane said earlier in the episode when it came to the graphics. This is really the game that you should go out and just have a good time with. And if there was multiplayer, I'd say this would be a perfect game to play with your kids. But in that case, with that being said, this is a game that you can play alongside your kids, because this is a game you could give to someone who's getting started on video games and know that they're going to have a good time. Nothing's going to be offensively violent, and of course, there's no dialogue that you don't want anything that you wouldn't want your kid to see. As I try to find the words to speak coherently. So in that case, absolutely, highly recommend this game. You should play it. It's a fun time, and I'm giving it a score of 8 out of 10.
All right. I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of the same sentiments. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Especially in this day and age where I don't have a lot of time to put into games, that demand, whatever 80 hours of me. This is not that game. And so I appreciate that, first of all. But it was one that I enjoyed enough that I felt compelled to want to continue playing even after the main story was finished. And so I actually appreciated that there was sort of an epilogue sequence to it, because it's always a good thing, I think, when you get to the end of a game and you feel like you are left wanting more and not feeling burnt out, because you end up getting that a lot of the time too. And that's no good for anybody. But yeah, it's just fun. Like, it doesn't demand a lot of you in terms of what you might expect from JRPGs of this era and earlier, with a lot of really specific minutia, or a lot of like kind of bullshitty backtracking stuff, or obscure mechanics that you need a walkthrough to figure out. You're not going to have any of that here. If that's your jam, then maybe this isn't for you, but also I might ask that you seek help. But it is something that you can just kind of plunk down and just get into. And with an RPG, I think that's a bonus. Like, not only does not everything have to be supremely difficult for the sake of being difficult, but not everything has to be like overly complex. Sometimes just a real straightforward adventure is the kind of thing that you're looking for. And this is definitely that. And I don't, obviously, as I mentioned, have any of the experience with the original, but just based on my knowledge that I do have of JRPGs of that time, I would say today in 2021, if you are going to play a version of this game, I would agree with Chris that I think this is definitely the way to go. Because even if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can still bump up the difficulty a little bit. And if you just want to experience the story, it absolutely will let you just do that.
Cool. My turn. It was good.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
And done.
No, I'm not done yet. Yeah, I think it was really good. I had a really great time with it. And coming from somebody who had played the original, I'm so impressed with how faithful they were with this remake and keeping to the source material, and seeing all these environments that were so flat before on the Super Nintendo suddenly come to life like a pop-up book in full 3D was just magical. It was like flicking my nostalgia clit, and I was getting off on it. And so yeah, I highly recommend that anybody who had played the original and who hasn't picked this up yet, do yourself a favor and pick it up. Yes, it's incredibly easy, and yes, the English voice acting is at sometimes an embarrassment to video game voice acting, but you can always switch it to Japanese, and I found it to be like a really easy, breezy, smooth, fun ride that I switched my brain off. I had a really great time, and it would be perfect for like baby's first RPG if you have kids. But fair warning, there is a lady in there with some massive memories, and Kevin may also turn your kid into a furry, so another thing to look out for. But other than that, I thought it was really good, and I give Trials of Mana Remake a solid score of 7.5 out of 10.
Nice.
Because there's too much water.
Which character are you referring to as too much memories? Because they all have massive memories.
Belladonna.
It's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they are massive.
Those are some massive memories.
Yes, they are. And even when you think Reese is more subdued, you see her in her Fenrir Knight outfit and realize, no, they are not subdued. Like
She looks so weird in that because her head is so big, but her body looks kind of really small.
It's like chibi, super deformed, man. It's the rage.
Yeah.
In any case, that wraps it up. So yeah, I think we'd all highly recommend this game. So patrons, if you're listening to this, and I know you are because you love our show, or at least I hope you do, go check out this show. Go check out this game. You're already checking out this show. Go check out this game and add Trials of Mana to your backlog and go play it. Speaking of backlog, Adam, how about you go ahead and plug yourself and let everybody know, all of our patrons know where you're at and what you do, where they can find you.
All right.
Turn on the webcam first.
Well, I've already plugged myself, so do you want me to take the butt plug out first and then go on? Or should I?
I mean, that's up to you. You can leave it in.
Oh, no, just leave it now. Missed out.
The shit has solidified around it. I don't think I can take it out anymore.
It's crusty.
We have become one.
It's like old stale
merged with it.
brownies.
Yeah. The fudge factory is closed for the day. Anyway, yes, thank you. You can find me on the podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog, which I do with my co-host, Kieran. And we're on like all the podcast places. You can find us on Twitter, which is @BadBacklog. And then we're also on Instagram and Twitch, which is @GoodBadBacklog. And we have a YouTube channel. There's like a handful of videos there of a playthrough we did of A Way Out, but I still haven't finished editing it. Probably never will, but maybe one day. And yeah, come check out the show. And we did a Trials of Mana episode with Chris, so that one's fun as well.
So I think that concludes everything we got for the day. You're patrons, so you don't need to know to find us. At least I hope you wouldn't. So Shane, you got anything, last words to put out?
No. I mean, this is weird. Everything that I would, want to talk about, they already know about. So I guess I'm good.
Sweet, even better.
Tell them a secret.
So until next time, play
Just gonna
with
wash
your
her over.
Charlotte riding joysticks.